Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next interview conducted as part of the EngagEU project. This project is carried out by EUROPEUM Institute for European Policy and with the support of the European Parliament. Today, we will speak with Ms. Danuta Maria Hübner, a member of the European Parliament from Poland, who is a member of the European People's Party. My name is Daniela Piątkiewicz, and I'm a research fellow with EUROPEUM, and I will be guiding you through today's interview. So Ms. Hübner, thank you so much for joining us today. So just to kick off, we'd love to ask you our first question, which is what sectors were the most impacted by the pandemic-related economic slowdown? And what are the most endangered sectors of the economy in the fallout of the Russian aggression?
On the pandemics, I think there were roughly three categories of sectors. There were those that were related to the pandemic itself. So we didn't have the medical equipment, we didn't have masks, so there was a huge demand and really little supply. So that was, I think, the first category of sectors affected. That secondly, I would say that we also had dependencies. On many issues, on many products, we depended on other countries, on other deliveries, and that didn't function during the pandemic well. And third category was traditional sectors with long supply chains, where you're really depending on very often very remote countries without which we couldn't move our production. So that was, I think, the pandemic. And now on Russia and the war aggression on Ukraine, we have to remember that war is always bringing shortages, so that's absolutely obvious on all accounts. But what is important here is that there are sanctions imposed by the entire democratic world. So as a consequence, we have problems with energy, with all sorts of critical minerals. We have problems globally with grains, with oils, because both Russia and Ukraine, they are an important provider of a lot of products which are fundamental for the entire world. I also think that what is going to be hit, especially which we see in the costs, is everything related to energy. So here the shortages are indeed important, but we have no other option. Because we have no other option, we just have to impose sanctions. But the sanctions hit also us. That's, I think, important to remember. And I also think that we have to look into the post-war situation right now, and we will see that there will be huge inflation. And I think that all the shortages we are talking and all the sectors which are affected, they also contribute to growing costs and producing like new barrier to growth, to development, and generating a lot of inflation.
Thank you. And maybe going back to the post-pandemic recovery efforts, one of the aspects that emerged was the Recovery for Resiliency Facility. In your opinion, what makes the instrument revolutionary in both terms of its financing and the target areas? And why is there so much focus on the green and digital transformation aspect of this?
Yes, of course, the financing of the Recovery and Resilience Facility, the fund itself, is absolutely revolutionary. Thinking of the history of the European integration, an important taboo was just gone overnight when we decided that we will, as European Union, through the Commission, we will go to financial markets and we will borrow. We will issue our bonds and we'll borrow funding that we will use then for, in addition to the long-term budget, for financing a lot of investment, but also we have to remember that recovery and resilience is not only investment, important as it is, but it's also about reforms. There is a lot of milestones, benchmarks, which imply serious reforms, including judiciary system in member states, but not only. And I think that on the other side, I think the program as such was very strongly committed to the continuation of our strategically important mission. I would say, as the European Union, we are trying to show to the world how important the climate change is and how important is are the measures to counter it. So we kept our program within the Recovery and Resilience Facility focused on the climate change, but also on another long-term strategic priority of Europe, which is the digital transition, embracing the whole economy, but also our lives as citizens as well. And I think that the third important characteristic of the Recovery and Resilience Facility and Fund is that it is strongly linked to the economic governance of the European Union. It is linked to European semester, where we have every year a review and a list of things for member states to do, and they are not being done. Now within this link with Recovery and Resilience, semester can be more efficient. We have more control over the reforms by member states. And we also linked it to the country-specific recommendations, those recommendations that are imposed sort of, but as recommendation on all member states are very often not indeed respected. And here they are linked again to the targets of the RRF. So that's also important. And of course, climate and digital, this has been now for a long time a major priority of the European Union. We just want to save the planet. That's absolutely obvious, but it requires a lot of reforms, a lot of awareness raising exercise, and also a lot of funding. And we need not only budget of the European Union, but we also need the private investment. So we are using also this Recovery and Resilience Facility and the long-term budget to encourage private investment, to bring them also into those two areas, which are fundamental for our, I think, for our future.
Thank you. And following up on that, what would you say is the role of small and medium enterprises? How hard were they hit, and why are they crucial for European economy recovery?
Well, the small and medium-sized enterprises, sometimes we add also micro to these family enterprises. They are fundamental in terms, if you look at the number of enterprises in Europe, it's just around 25 million. Sometimes statistics say 28 million enterprises, and they also provide probably around 70% of the employment and at least half probably of what we produce every year. So they exist as the major part of the European economy. And they have also, I think, many of them are also at local level. So they are also fundamental very often for local communities. We are more major provider of jobs and income for the local communities. But many of them are also extremely innovative and competitive, and they participate also in the global supply chain. So they are also making Europe visible globally. So on any count, I think they are fundamental for the economy and for the jobs especially, and also for the, unlike what many people think, they are also very innovative and very open to new technologies. And our duty in European Union is just to provide frameworks for legislation that would be conducive to their development, to their interests, and that would not provide, not impose on them too much in terms of administrative burden of reporting. So we are trying also to be in our legislation, we call it proportionality of the legislation, that we do not make the life of small and medium-sized companies too difficult. And I think that this commitment to sort of SMEs-friendly legal environment or business environment is something which we pay a lot of attention to in the European Parliament.
Excellent. And also linked to this is, what would you see as the long-term impact of the pandemic in terms of education, and how the uneven success in adapting digital tools might widen the gaps between member states?
Well, you know that we tend to forget bad things, but we all remember the last 2 years where we actually discovered as Europe how unprepared our education systems have been for this new situation that emerged basically overnight. And we could see how differentiated Europe is when it comes to the access to decent internet connections across Europe. Even in the most developed, most advanced member states, we also have pockets of where this access is extremely limited. We have also poor people. We have also people who do not have actually, for whom the learning online is practically impossible. And we could also see that our teachers have not been prepared in terms of having not only equipment, but also skills to provide the sort of education service to the kids. And also we discovered a positive thing, that we had a lot of initiatives also locally, but also some efficient governments who adapted very quickly the whole system to learning online. But then we were worried that the quality of the outcome of the education and also the sort of psychological preparedness of kids was not sufficient. So we could see also negative effects sometimes in some places, and we needed a lot of also assistance for youth, for young people that could not absorb well this total change of the education and not seeing colleagues. And so it was a surprise. It showed that we were diversified in terms of readiness, and there was a lot of good examples, but we also saw the negative aspects of having the education online. And now the Commission is also launching, I think, a kind of, it's called Digital Education Action Plan for the years now for 2000 within the current long-term financial framework that would, I hope, increase the quality and also inclusiveness of education and training systems, and help also to provide digital skills, so that we are also ready for any crisis again, but also to see how useful certain aspects we have learned how to educate because of this, what we can keep in the system. That's also very important.
Yeah, and you mentioned, of course, the link to the crises, and maybe just to kind of go back to the situation in Ukraine, there's also been a lot of talk within the EU dedicated to the post-war recovery in Ukraine, which is still quite far away, but will nonetheless need to be discussed. What role should the EU play in helping Ukraine not only in the war, but post-war recovery? And also, to be very frank, are there opportunities or benefits that the EU can take away from this situation?
But you know, we have been trying, I think, as European Union for the first time, I think, successfully to be really united on the issue. And we also managed to mobilize the global family of democracies to do everything we can as quickly as possible with regard to the sanctions, which, because democracies do not have much more in our hands in situations like the one generated by the aggressor in Ukraine. So we I think passed this test, but we are in the middle, I think, of the road. We still have to continue with the sanctions, and we are preparing, I think, now the 5th tranche of the sanctions. But we all hope that we will see soon the end of the war. Before that, most likely, we should also mobilize ourselves to just introduce a full ban on energy import from Russia, and also to help as much as possible with the military equipment that we know that Ukraine needs dramatically. But it's not, I think, unusual that we should start thinking about the reconstruction. We will have soon, basically at the end of this week, I think, in Warsaw, we will have Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the Commission. We will have Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. We will have other donors. We will have the first serious meeting of those who can help with reconstruction of Ukraine. We will need, there will be a tremendous effort. We will need a lot of investment, not only public. I hope we will be also able to mobilize the private investment. I can I can only hope that this will come as soon as possible. We talk a lot about costs and sanctions and all those things, but the real thing that matters is the suffering of people, and we should just do everything to spare no effort, absolutely, to see that it comes to the end tomorrow, immediately, as soon as possible. And then let's do it together with the Ukrainians. Let's hope that there will be conditions for the refugees to go back, because they will be needed in Ukraine. And I hope you will all be really mobilized strongly to help to reconstruct Ukraine. And I personally hope also to see Ukraine one day in the European Union.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the linkages, of course, on how the post-pandemic recovery will need to take those lessons learned forward with this current situation. So thank you so much, Ms. Hübner, for the interview. And also thank you for our viewers for watching yet another interview from our series of interviews with MEPs, which are conducted under the EngagEU project. Over the coming weeks, you can look forward to more interviews, both with Czech and foreign MEPs. You can follow our social media on Facebook and Instagram to get updates on future interviews and other interesting projects and outputs. Also, I'd like to invite our Czech-speaking viewers to visit our website at www.zapojse.eu for more content, such as quiz game, information about the European Parliament on its weekly agenda, etc. And I wish you guys all a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.